If you work in university maintenance, Granger considers you an MVP because your playbook ensures your arena is always ready for tip-off. And Granger is your trusted partner, offering the products you need all in one place, from HVAC and plumbing supplies to lighting and more. And all delivered with plenty of time left on the clock, so your team always gets the win. Call 1-800-GRANGER, visit Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done. If you work in university maintenance, Granger considers you an MVP because your playbook ensures your arena is always ready for tip-off. And Granger is your trusted partner, offering the products you need all in one place, from HVAC and plumbing supplies to lighting and more. And all delivered with plenty of time left on the clock, so your team always gets the win. Call 1-800-GRANGER, visit Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
I was really getting exposed to a lot of great things, including Fela, including listening to a lot of Slum Village, and including being around Bilal, Jill Scott, Erica, D'Angelo, The Roots, Mos, Talib, Dave Chappelle. We all was just hanging, kicking it. And, I feel like this album was me defining a new thing for me and taking music to a new place. And it was the first album that me and Dilla worked on, and like it had that what Dilla is about with the MC, like with me, cause Slum is his own sound, but he was able to come and produce something for me that was like that helped create a sound, and with Amir's executive production, it just was, and some of his production, it just, man, I feel like it's a piece of art that I'll always be happy about and grateful for.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm 12 Kyle. Check this out. On this episode, we're going to take it back. Taking it back to March 28th, the year 2000. My man Common releases the classic LP, Like Water for Chocolate. And I'm going to break it down. And I've got a special co-host, my man B Cox from the Vault Classic Podcast. So relax and chill, and we'll get the podcast jumping. Let's get it. And just like that, we are back. Once again, it's your boy 12 Kyle. This is the 12 Kyle podcast. And we're taking it back. As I mentioned in the intro, we're taking it back to March 28th, 2000. The album, Like Water for Chocolate by my man Common. And as I mentioned in the intro, we got a special co-host. This co-host is new, relatively new to me on the scene. But I mean, he's got a dope podcast. And I've been rocking with him for a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcoming into the 12 Kyle podcast for the first time, my man B Cox from the Vaults podcast. What's up, bro?
Hey, what's going on, brother and Kyle? I appreciate you for having me, man. Thank you so much.
Man, I got to say, and I think I told you this before, man, I love your podcast, man. It's I can't even remember how I found it, but anybody that talks classic hip hop is all right with me.
Oh, no doubt, man. Yeah, definitely. We are definitely kindred spirits when it comes to the music thing. And I appreciate you for checking it out. And definitely, I think one of the things how I found you is when you reviewed D'Angelo earlier this year for the 20-year anniversary of Voodoo. So yes. We have definitely similar taste on how we view that album. And I definitely know that we'll have similar taste on this one, too, because this is an all-time favorite of mine, just as a little preview. But I'm glad to get into this. I appreciate you for having me, bro. And I'm ready to get into it, man.
No problem, man. Once again, glad to have you on. I know we had talked before about you'd reached out and we said we'd do something together. So I'm glad that we're able to I'm glad that we're able to get together and do this one. This is one of my all-time favorites as well. So let's take it back, man. March 28, 2000. The hip-hop scene was a little bit different in 2000 than it was, I guess when we talk about some of the other classics, but when we look at the landscape of music, do you remember how or what you were kind of vibing to back in 2000, or maybe where you were musically?
Yeah. So the year 2000, just a little tidbit for those, of course, who are listening out there, the fans of the 12 Cal podcast. The year 2000 was actually the beginning of that year was actually the second half of my senior year in high school.
Thanks for making me feel old.
hey, look, man. Hey, look. I just thought I'd put that out there.
Okay.
But I say that because it was a very critical time in me listening to music, my development overall. But it was a critical time in the life journey that I was starting to go through, coming of age, finally being an adult, a young adult at that time, and getting ready to go through and leave one phase of my life and enter into the next one. And musically, well, man, I was always a really, really big fan of East Coast hip hop. For when I first started listening to hip hop, probably in the late 80s, when I was low grade school, kindergarten or first grade. And I had a lot of older sisters. I'm the youngest of four.
Okay.
I had 3 older sisters. So I had a couple of sisters that were actually one that was in college, one that was getting ready to graduate from college, and one that was closer to me in age. So when I started listening to, it was a lot of Dougie Fresh, Rakim and Eric B and Rakim, Pete Rock and C.O. Smooth, eventually later on Biggie. I started getting into West Coast hip hop a little bit later. I would say right around middle school, or at the end of elementary school and the middle school. But I was really deep into, at that point in time, my underground boom bop, traditional hip hop type sound, really organic. So I was into a lot of, especially around this time, I was into a lot of Rawkus, a lot of Mos Def, a lot of Talib Kweli. So Common was right in my wheelhouse of what I listened to, because great lyricist, great MC, and this was an album that was coming out right around this time. And you remember in 2000, during those first 3 months of 2000, we had some heaters drop during that time.
Yes.
You want to talk about Supreme Clientele? I reviewed on The Vault. Also,
Yes.
Dead Prez, Let's Get Free.
Yes.
There was a lot of great music at the tail end of 99. So it was a really great time. The game was starting to change, as you mentioned, but you were starting to get some real gems when this type of style or this lane that you were in, as far as you getting to what you got from Kweli, Mos Def, from Common, from Dead Prez. If you were a Wu fan, getting stuff like that from Ghostface. So it just continued on. I thought was a great start to the new millennium.
Man, you made a great point. I think it's that particular time was very, like the word you used, very pivotal, I think, in hip hop, because it was a shift. But even in some of the artists and acts that you named, lyricism wasn't lost. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think that's one of the things that stood out to me about that time, was because, I think when we think about hip hop at that particular time, we were moving toward an era where obviously there was a lot more money involved in hip hop. So it was big business. And we saw, the Jay-Z's, we saw the Master P's, we saw the DMX's, we saw all of these artists, rising and going on these multi-million-dollar tours and things of that nature, having albums sell through the roof. But at the same time, to some degree, I think some people thought that we would be losing lyricism as, the money got involved. And to a degree, I think we did. But like you said, when you look at the Rawkus movement, when you look at acts like Common, Mos Def, getting tongue-tied, Talib Kweli, just to name a few, that just let us know right there that we weren't losing the lyricism. The lyricism still was here. And I think this album, served as a backdrop for something that was very, very pivotal as far as lyricism. Because, for someone like me who's been, like I said, a little bit older than my man B Cox here. So I'm a little bit more seasoned, but I grew up, listening to lyrics. So lyrics matter to me. And one of the things that, like I said, stood out to me was just seeing artists, and the level of competition was still strong. You couldn't come whack. Back then, in 2000, if you came with something whack, people still were going to tell you that it was whack. So you definitely made some great points. So as we get into this album, I guess the first question I had, you mentioned that you were in high school. When this album came out, was it something that you and your boys rushed to? Is something that you rushed to? How were you, because I know you were already introduced to Common, but what was your vibe and what were you going through, I guess, when this album dropped?
Oh, man, of course it was. And just a little further background on myself. For the longest while, I was at this point in time, right around, let's say, later high school, I had just started getting involved in rapping myself and then also producing. So, you know, when I sat in high school at the lunch table, you know, like everybody has their cliques at lunch, right?
For
you
sure.
you got the athletes, you got the cool kids, you got the weirdos, you have the skaters and the goths, you have all these different cliques. And, you know, Bowie at that time where I was one of the more diverse areas in Prince George's County. So we had, you know, some white kids and also Hispanics and also Asians as well. Mm-hmm. So it was very culturally diverse. But the group that I sat with, we were all the hip hop heads. We were the ones who went and listened to, you know, we had the CDs when they came out. Like when Mos Def dropped, when Pharoah Monch dropped, when Sound Bombing 1 and 2 dropped, we were the ones who got there and we sat down at the lunch table and we sat down and discussed. That's what we did at my lunch table. So I sat amongst the rappers and the producers. So we used to dissect albums from the perspective of being young, somewhat being involved in music ourselves from sort of like, I guess you could say semi an artist perspective. But when this Common joint came out, I think everybody was anticipating it because everyone had heard Common's last album, which is One Day It'll All Make Sense. And that was an incredible album. Yes. And then we had also heard Common on Sound Bombing 2 and with Still Getting Mine in the 1999 with Talib Kweli and Sadat X. And we knew that this album was coming out and everybody was sort of waiting for it when it came out. And when it came out, we all got it. And it was sort of like when that first day after the album came out, well, really the first day after we got it and then everyone got a chance to listen to it, it was like we all got to the lunch table and we sat there and looked at each other. And I was like, all right, man, so what do y'all think? You know? That's what it was like. It's like, so what do you guys think? And it really, all of us were looking forward to it and we were not disappointed by what we heard. And when we started to dig into the liner notes and started to dig into the intricacies of this album, everything just sort of started to emerge. And that's when the legend of this album really started to emerge for me.
Oh, no doubt, man. You just took me back with the sitting around the lunch table because we used to do the same thing when I was in high school. Yeah. It was, I think for me, this album came at like you said, a critical time because for me, I just become a father the year before, and my soon-to-be wife, we were getting married. We got married in September of 2000. So this album came out in March, and I never forget going to the record store just for you scoring at home. Yeah, we had record stores. You couldn't just download this to your phone.
Yes, sir.
You actually had to physically go pick up a copy. And I remember actually going to get the CD. And, you know, I was already a fan of Commons. I didn't know how he was going to top One Day It'll All Make Sense because I played that joint, man, all the time. I mean, like it was one up until that point, it was one of my favorite albums of any genre. And I wasn't sure. I mean, I had high expectations, but you know, I still was just like, okay, I'm ready to see what he's going to do. And I remember getting it, and you know, I purposely did not listen to it on the way home. I wanted to get home. I got home, played with our son, and then I chilled for a little bit. Once everybody went to bed, I remember just sitting down. I turned everything off, and I just sat and just listened to it, man. And I was blown, like, because I'm normally very critical of an album. Like the first time I hear it, I'm like, I'm not sure about that. It's okay. And some albums, the first time I listen to them, I'm not really keen on them the first time I hear it. And then I eventually, you know, it kind of grows on me. But this one, from the first moment, I was like, oh shit, we got something here. I was blown, man.
Yeah, it was the same for me. Similar to you, I sort of I went upstairs in my room and I had an old, just to tell you, throwback. I had an old Iowa studio, the stereo. All right. And I had these killer stereo headphones that my dad gave me from his job. My dad worked in broadcast engineering, so he had really good quality headphones. And I plugged it into the Iowa stereo, and I sat there and I listened. And I think I jammed to that all the way out from when I got home from school until it was, I think I even jammed through it through dinner. Like, I don't even think I came downstairs to eat dinner that day. Like, wow. I think I just listened to it. Like, that's how in tune I was with it. And by the time I was done, I think I went downstairs to the phone. I called my boy and said, Dave, I think I just heard the best hip hop album I've heard in the last 2.5 years.
Yes.
Like, quite honestly. Like, I think I've heard one of the best. And now, mind you, I heard Supreme Clientele earlier that year, but I hadn't digested it. So I was just like, dude, this is like the best rap album that's come out in like the last 2.5 years. That's the way I felt. And then by the time I got to school, we had this meetup spot at school. And I remember one of my boys coming up to me and he said, yo, Common's joint. And we had whenever we would sit there to describe hip hop, we would give hand signals, right? Thumbs down. We would kind of give a little kind of so sign. But if something was beautiful, we would literally sit there and take the hand and wipe it underneath our eyes as if we were wiping away tears.
I love it.
You know, and that's the kind of feeling that I got, man. It was just, I was blown away because I was just like, dude, he just did something I didn't think he could do. He actually topped this last project. And it's, to me, it's considerably better than the last project. And that's saying something. Right. You know? Right.
And that's hard to do. I think even in that time, because like you said, the competition was stiff, and then, you know, just your expectations, because, you know, unlike, you know, music of today, back then, you didn't know when your favorite artist was dropping. He or she might drop an album one year, and it might be 2 or 3 years before they go by before you hear from them again. So it wasn't that mentality of, okay, one day it'll all make sense drop, and then like 2 days later you're like, oh, I can't wait till the next album comes out. No, you had to, it's like a steak. You had to savor it, because honestly, you didn't know when the next album was coming. So you hung on to it, and you cherished it. And like you said, I think it was a great time in hip hop when it came out. Now, I know you said that you're from Bowie, Maryland, right outside of DC. So I guess the next question is, outside of your friends, were the people, anybody that you know, were they like clamoring for this album? Were they really, really, high on it? Or was you kind of like maybe oblivious to, the outside as far as like what people thought of this album?
For the most part, yeah, because I mean, a lot of kids that I grew up with. Now, mind you, you know the DMV, so it goes very big here.
Oh, no question.
A big portion of the folks that I knew, and you're in high school, everybody was going to be into the radio stations. Up here, it's WBGC, WKYS 95.5, 93.9. So everybody's into what's on the radio. The Hot Boys, Juvenile, yes. Very, very big. No Limit still so very, very big. Yep. We in DC though, there's a lot of folks in here who are into stuff like Ghetto Boys and Scarface and a lot of down south rap music, and especially even a lot of Tupac. But I would say there was a considerable amount of people who liked this album outside of just my groups of friends. Even the other pockets of rappers and producers that I talked to was like, yo, this is dope. Like, this is really, really dope. And I had a teacher, and I spoke about this on my Dead Prez episode. I had a teacher, Mr. J. He was one of my African-American studies teachers. Is this guy, he's originally from Brooklyn, dreadlocks down his back, glasses, very woke, very educated, into a lot of different other things. And he would always be like, hey, yo, check this out. Right before he's about to drop some knowledge. So he actually heard this album before any one of us, and he was like, yo, I'm telling you. He said, listen to this album. He said, first 3 tracks, you might not necessarily get it, because I know sometimes, young cats, y'all might not get stuff. He said, but I'm telling you, after track 4, strap yourself in. He said, from track 4 on, strap yourself in, because you're in for a ride, And but outside of that, though, I was kind of, for the most part, oblivious to it, because a lot of my peers weren't necessarily listening to the same type of things that I was into at that time. But when I hit people to the album, even the ones who weren't into like this type of hip hop were kind of like, you know what? This jams, because this reminds me of a lot of the music that I jam with, like listening to some live bands, go type music, like the percussion, the bass, and everything else. Even if it wasn't necessarily their cup of tea, they were just like, all right, man, you know what? I could mess with this joint, man. I like it. I like it a lot. So,
no doubt. Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Nah. So it's I would definitely say that I was oblivious to it for the most part, but when I did get people to listen to it and they actually gave it a chance, for the most part, even if they weren't as fanning over as I was, they were just like, you know what, this is solid. I like this. I like it a lot. So that's kind of like where it was at that time.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I wanted to get your perspective on that, because it's always interesting when you and your friends really, really dig something, and then like you kind of step outside of your box and you say, okay, well, why aren't everybody else checking for it? You know what I'm saying? Especially when it's something dope, because as hip hop heads, we hold great albums in such high regard. And, we almost kind of take it personal when somebody's not feeling something the way that we're feeling it. I was in Atlanta. I just moved to Atlanta. I moved to Atlanta in 97. So, by this time, this is 2000. again, I'm, older, kind of grown a little bit, working, got a, family and the whole nine. But I just remember I was really feeling it. My boys, a few who lived here and then the ones who didn't live here, we were feeling it. And then I remember, turning on the radio and like you said, of course, being in Atlanta at that particular time, they had all hip hop station which was something new and something that was fresh and dope. But, this album wasn't getting any kind of radio play. But on the flip side, if you go to there was a couple of lounges that I used to kick it at. When I hit the lounge, oh my God, it was when they played any joint from this album in that particular lounge, it was crazy. Like everybody, and it was almost like everybody was on the same vibe. Like, I can't believe you playing this. This is my shit, that type of thing. So it was good to see, people who enjoyed it as much as I did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. And I think to me, I was sort of like the same space. Well, I definitely wasn't going to any lounges in 2000 because right. I could barely stay in Dave and Buster's after 8 o'clock.
I know, right?
But to me though, when you were sort of around playing things, if you would be in the parking lot after school and you would play this joint, I think we played this joint for at least a good month and a half afterwards because it was just so hot. You would have the people sort of congregating around, be like, oh, damn, what y'all playing, And the people who knew it would be like, oh, yeah, turn that up. That's my shit right there. I love that shit. I love that, And it would be like when you play stuff like The Questions or you would play The Sixth Sense or you would play any one of these tracks that are on here that just undeniably, without a shadow of a doubt, rocks, man. You would get that same reaction in the parking lot after school when people were playing their respective music, getting ready to leave from out of school and folks had their speakers turned up.
No doubt. Now, when we talk about the production, actually, before we even get started on the production, one of the first things that stands out about this album, you actually pay attention to it before you actually even hit play. It's the album cover. Like Water for Chocolate, there's a black woman or black girl drinking out a water fountain, and under the water fountain it says coloreds only. Yeah. And it was a photo from I think it was 1956 Alabama, shot by the great Gordon Parks, great photographer Gordon Parks.
That's right.
Yeah, she's drinking out a colored only fountain, which was very prevalent, in the 50s and 60s. So that was, that right there in and of itself, B Cox, from the era that we came up listening to music, even some of the artists and acts that you named earlier, your album cover could make or break you. You know what I'm saying? So it was going to be the thing that, a lot of times garnered the attention. So, when you go further back into hip hop time, one of the things that always stood out to me was, an artist's album cover. So That was the first thing that got me, was the album cover. Then we get into the production. Wow. It goes without saying that this was, when I look at the production and the people that appeared on this album, it was almost like the dream team, if you will, in basketball. Everybody from, and I mean, first and foremost, Common is a dope MC, and there are some artists that use other artists as features and stuff as a crutch, but the features on this album really don't, I mean, as dope as they are, he could have done them by himself, but even just some of the other guest appearances were incredible. Just to name a few, Venia Mojica, the late great Roy Hargrove.
Yes, sir.
Fema Kuti, Bilal, Jill Scott, Mos Def, MC Light, Slum Village, D'Angelo, CeeLo Green. I mean, that's just the people that show up. Rozelle from The Roots. Now, when we get into the production side, I mean, obviously, a couple of tracks were produced by Questlove from The Roots, and this album was recorded in Electric Lady Studio in New York City, which is the famous studio that was Jimi Hendrix's studio.
Yeah, that's right.
So it was a lot of stuff that was going on And I remember Questlove talking about what all was the projects that were being created in different sections. They were doing this one in this section. Voodoo was being done in another section. Erykah Badu's album was being done in another section. So
yeah, Mama's Gun. Yeah,
Mama's Gun. Yes, sir. So a lot of stuff was going on. And again, you got Questlove. And then, of course, one other track was produced by the great DJ Premier. And we'll get into that in just a few. And but the majority of this album was produced by James Yancey, aka Jay Dilla, rest in peace.
Yeah. My gosh.
Man.
My goodness.
There's so much I could say about Jay Dilla, but it's, again, and I think if people have followed me on this podcast, they know I hold Jay Dilla as the greatest hip hop producer ever. That's not a sentiment that everybody shares, but I have I have stuff to back it up, but that's my personal opinion. But the production on here was crazy. What did you think? I mean, obviously you I know you heard the bars, but when you got a chance to kind of sit with this album and you were able to take in these beats and these sounds, what did you think about all of this?
Oh man. Well, listening to the album at one point in time and listening to it through your speakers is one thing. When you start to read the backstory of how this album was constructed, it even raises to me the mythology of it to a whole new level. You see, as you talked about their Electric Lady Studios, these 3 albums being constructed at the same time. And by the way, if somebody hasn't done it yet, I may just do it myself. I don't know if I get enough money and find, get enough clout. I think there has to be a documentary done on these record sessions, man. I know that Questlove has done quite a bit of interviews, but to talk about the Soulquarians and what they did in this very short time frame to come up with 3 absolute heater albums, and the work that was done, not just by the producers, of course, Dilla himself. I like to refer to Dilla as the chosen one. To me, if we talk about I'm a big Star Wars fan, to me, Dilla is like Anakin Skywalker. I mean, just the natural ability, the timing, the talent, the ear, that producer ear that not every producer has when they step out there, and the incredible work that he did. The Questlove to sort of be like the conductor, to sort of bring all these things together, to have folks like Pino Palladino.
Yeah, like you said, I forgot about Pino. Yes.
To have like the late, great Roy Hargrove, to have D'Angelo, all great, James Poyser, all great instrumentalists and producers in their own right, to be able to come together to make this happen. Production-wise, I was blown away because it had its hip-hop feel to it. But then when you got into some of the things where you see these instruments are being played and then also the instrumentalists behind it, it felt so organic. And then when you're recording in a studio like Electric Lady Studio that has really great analog equipment and has so many great people that produce there, and the quality of sound that has come out of that studio, when you started hearing the production, it's almost like you were going through and you were having a symphony being constructed in front of you. And there were so many different movements to that symphony happening, and that you had different sections sort of handling this symphony and taking the lead of this symphony. And it all just came together. I mean, to have guys like D'Angelo and James Poyser on your keys, or even D'Angelo on the guitar, to have Pino, who in my mind, and probably when you talk about modern bass players, is probably one of the top 5 baddest MFers on the bass out there.
Crazy.
And to have Jay Dilla be able to pull the majority of this together and his vision for this album. Oh, I told you I was in the beats, man. I was a producer. Okay. This almost, when it came to the bars, was just as critical as Common's bars, and it was the soundtrack. The soundtrack to the story that was being told throughout this album. It was phenomenal. And it's almost like you mentioned DJ Premier. When you talk about the production, it's almost ridiculous to think about it. He was almost an afterthought when you start thinking about this album.
You're right.
And the track he produced was incredible.
It was incredible. And they shot a video for it and everything.
Yeah, and I mean, but to be able to bring so many of those elements together, man, I need to see a documentary done on that with all of the parties that were involved. I'm talking about every single one of the Soulquarians. Obviously, Dilla can't be here, but I need D'Angelo, I need Questlove, I need Common, I need Erica, The Roots, Q-Tip, who came by for some sessions as well. Like, I need all that. I need all of it.
Man, let me tell you something. If you get that done, I'll be front and center. I'll put up some money for it because I'm much like you, man. Especially as time moves on, I'm more so interested in how stuff was created, particularly stuff that resonates with me and music that has resonated with me over a period of time. So to get that kind of documentary, I think it would really, really be dope, because it's just, like you said, when you look at Voodoo, when you look at Mama's Gun, when you look at this album, Like Water for Chocolate, those are 3 genre bending albums. You know, hip hop was in a different space in 2000 than it was in 1990. So, you know, and even Common the MC, when going from Common Sense to Common, he was in a different space. And for him to be rhyming about some of the things that he was rhyming about, and then for this sound to be put behind it, was just incredible. And like you said, I mean, he's got some heavy hitters, and they don't. It's a very even balance, because Common doesn't overshine the production, and the production doesn't overshine Common. They blend very well together.
Yeah, it was a very good balance, and it was almost like, you think about any analogy of a great sports team, you could talk about the 86 Celtics, the 96 Bulls, the 86 Celtics, the 96 Bulls. You talk about any great dynasty or sports team, everybody sort of worked and played their part, and nobody tried to step out of their lane and try to take anything over. Everybody played their part, man. And to me, I think that's rare when you have that many heavy hitters. All these folks we named have their own resume. Every single one of them could sit there and you could put their resume on the wall and they'd be like, all right, this is Hall of Fame worthy right here. But no, this was actually a team effort. And everyone who put together an effort here to make this album come together, like, let's put the egos aside. Let's go ahead and make the dopest record we can make with all of us here. Like, why not? You know, let's go in the studio. Everybody bring their A game. Let's see what happens after we're done.
Man, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in those recording sessions, man.
Man, what? I mean, I would have loved. I know it probably would have been great to be able to hear some of the creative process. It would have been great because, you know, it would have been some grade A smoke in the air. Like, it would have been just good vibes being in there when the album was being made.
No doubt. It was so crazy. And again, this album is one of the centerpieces, not only just for that particular movement, but also, you know, in hip hop and where hip hop was actually going in the 2000s. So this is a great place to take a commercial break. So what we're going to do is we'll take a break, and then in the break, we'll hear from Common. And then on the other side, man, me and B Cox are going to break it down. We are going to chop up each of these songs and, you know, tell you guys what we think. So sit tight. We'll be back in just a second.
Being in Jay Dilla's basement, just that experience, him picking me up in a truck when I thought he wasn't going to rap on the song Funky For You, where Ba10 and T3 were writing their verses, but Dilla wasn't. And he went home, he dropped me off at 2 a.m., went home that night and came back with Thelonious, and just picking me up in the truck, hearing that beat was like amazing to me. That he had made it that night. I thought he was done. I didn't even think he was. So Thelonious, that, and just going to Detroit to create with Dilla.
And just like that, we are back. Once again, it's your boy 12 Kyle. This is the 12 Kyle podcast. And we are talking about the March 28th, 2000, Like Water for Chocolate. 20 years later, I got my boy B Cox in the building from Vault Classic Podcast. Before the break, man, we said we were going to talk about each of these tracks. So let's get to it, man. The starts off. I'll admit, the first time I heard it, I wasn't sure what it was I was listening to. It kind of reminded me of someone being on a stranded island or something. But the first track, man, Time Traveling, a tribute to Fela. featuring Vinio Mojica and Roy Hargrove and Femi Kuti. Great intro. This one was produced by D'Angelo, Questlove from The Roots, James Poyser, and of course Jay Dilla. What did you think about this, man? Because this is a very interesting way to start off an album.
So, sort of like you, when I first heard it, I was sort of like, I said, okay, what's going on? I don't know what I'm listening to. Because I didn't know much about Fela at that point in time. I mean, I was 18 years old. I had no idea who he was, and understanding, how important he was, not just to black music, but African music, especially Afrobeat. Him being one of the pioneers of that. But when I started listening to it, it reminded me a lot of Voodoo's intro. How that intro sort of build, how player sort of build it, and the next thing you know, it just gave you this this release, and then all of a sudden you're into it, and then the track just starts going, and then Common starts going, and it's just like, oh, this is when I realized I was listening to something a whole lot different than I'd ever heard from Common ever before. And I liked it. And I was just like, oh, wow. Like, this is a nice beat. Like, you hear those congas and stuff in the background, and, that nice clap sound that you hear in the background as well. And it's like, literally, when I'm in my car, I start jamming, because it's like, okay, all right, Common, let's go. Like, I can see where this is starting to go. And I see when it started to build and it got into that track, it was like, dude, this is, wow. Like, this is different. And a good different. So that's where I was off of listening to Time Traveling, and it was just like, all right, man. Well, let's see where the rest of the album goes from here.
Yeah, there is a very, very distinct build, like you said, and I never really thought about it until you just said it just now. Player, which is the first track on D'Angelo's Voodoo album, it begins the same way. Very soft, and then it comes in, and it's just like, okay, here we are.
Yeah.
Then we go into track 2, which is produced by Jay Dilla. Heat. Bruh. One of the things that I think about Heat when I listen to it is like, and I wish we had Jay Dilla here.
Yeah, man. Oh boy.
Because I would just love to, yeah, no doubt. R.I.P., man. I would just love to pick his brain as to how he came up with some of these sounds.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, man. That beat, my goodness. It's like, thinking of Heat, it kind of put me also in the perspective of that Robert De Niro, Al Pacino movie, the movie Heat.
Love that movie.
That's really what I got the feel of it, as though they were sort of going maybe for that sort of motif. That's what I got from that track. I have to be honest, I wasn't necessarily a big fan of Common's bars on this, or his flow on this.
Okay.
I kind of gave him a little bit of leeway, because I figured this was the warm up track, know, like I was like, all right, but that beat by Dilla, my goodness, like that Dilla does some amazing things when it comes to his beats. I mean,
he does.
The different things that he pulls from different tracks, and the drums or stuff that he would sample, and the bass lines. I mean, it's just like, where did you get this from? Like, how did you do this? And the sample that he got from that was actually Tony Allen's a Seco in a silent mix. That's where that sample came from. And I like to be able to go on a site like Who Sampled to see where they pulled the samples from. That. And Dilla, I was just like, goodness, man, like, how long did you dig for this, bro? Like seriously.
Yeah, because he literally had to dig for it.
Literally. Yeah, had to dig for it when you had to dig for records, man. But incredible beat. The bars, like, I think for Common, I think he was saying some really great things in there. I wasn't a big fan of his flow at first, but it kind of grew on me the most right after you get out of Time Traveling. But incredible track by Dilla, and a good way to kind of start the album off when you kind of see where it's going to go from here.
Right. No, I agree. I think I like his rhymes. I think more so for me, the beat kind of took me over, because I was just like, I just couldn't stop bobbing my head. Like, it was something that just like kind of takes you into a space that you just really don't even think about. Then we move to track 3, Cold Blooded, featuring the late great Roy Hargrove. This one was produced by D'Angelo, Questlove, Kalo Sanders, and The Roots. Cold Blooded, I guess I probably should start with Roy Hargrove, right? I mean, I don't know if people really can appreciate, how talented he was. And, we lost a great one, when he passed away. But that horn, I mean, he kills it on it. It sets the tempo for everything. And sonically, and then Common comes in and he's going in. I love this track.
Yeah, man. God gave Roy Hargrove a gift, man.
Yes.
He gave him a gift as a horn player that not many people actually have. When this track gets started, man, and as soon as those first keys come in, and then you hear that horn, and then by the time Questlove gets working on the drums, it's like, oh boy, it's like, here we go. And then you hear Common coming off with those first rhymes, and little daughter started nursery school.
Right.
It was just like, he just sort of rode that beat, and then that bass line just kept riding. Like when I ride with this in my car, this might be one of my top 3 tracks from this album to play, because that bass line, the live music, those horns. And I mean, there's a period at the end of that song where you hear where they're playing that like, hey, look here, man, I tried my best, man. You hear the and Roy's just sitting there just going off on the horn, just like those staccato notes over and over and over again, right until it pops in before Quest comes back in with the drum. And I was just like, God damn.
right
Like, y'all put y'all foot in this track, boy. My goodness.
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in that studio session. It was just, like you said, everything started to come. And it's not that the beginning of the album was dead or anything like that, but I go back to what your teacher said. First couple of tracks, and then this, you really gotta buckle in. Yeah. But yeah, this is my joint, man. Roy Hargrove, again, he sets the tone, and it's just between him and then this beat and then Common coming in, it was just phenomenal for me. Then we get to track 4, produced by Jay Dilla. And like I said, the album, in my opinion, and much like your teacher said, the album turns here.
Yeah.
If you are familiar with track and someone running the 200, this was the turn.
Yeah.
And doing it. Track 4. Man, first and foremost, before I even get into the production by Jay Dilla, I gotta ask you, and this is off base, but I'm gonna ask you because I don't know. Do you think that Common in his lyrics and his bars was taking a shot at DMX?
I think he was taking a shot at a couple of people in this track.
Okay. Now, for those of you listening, the reason why we're saying this is because this was a time where, in hip hop, you could take subtle shots, subliminal shots at people, and it really was left up to the listener's interpretation. So we don't know. He never came out and said he had any beef with DMX, but I had to get your opinion. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I think he was taking definitely a shot at DMX. I think he was also probably taking the shot at Ja Rule too.
Okay.
And,
okay.
And but you could definitely see in the bars when he said back-to-back LPs that sound the same. I surround the stage with the stage with a 4-pound of brainstorm to make niggas dance in the rain. It's. I know that was for sure a shot at DMX, because in '98 DMX had dropped is
back-to-back
Dark
LPs.
As Hell Is Hot and Blessed Was My Blessed Blood My Blood within the same year. He didn't even give the album a chance to breathe before he had a second joint out. And I think he was definitely on his throwing darts thing out here, and I think he was ready to throw some darts at some people, because I think people were I think he was a little fed up with the way that some of the things in the games, how you said hip hop was making that change, and I think he was sort of fed up with the way some of the MCs, how they were operating, and he definitely had his darts out, and he was throwing them out on this track. So I think definitely a DMX, definitely a Ja Rule, and maybe a few other MCs that we're not thinking about.
Oh, no doubt. And the reason why I asked that is because that actually didn't honestly, it didn't come to me until about maybe 5 years ago. I just happened to be listening to it, and I'm like, back-to-back LPs that sound the same. I was like, is he talking about DMX? And because he said something different from these hollow and grunting niggas, which was
hollow and grunting niggas.
Exactly.
Strictly.
Exactly. So he said what was the other one he said? Generation X cats like a Muslim.
Like a Muslim.
So I was like,
fell off when I pushed them. Yeah.
There's a double entendre. Generation
Exactly.
X, or is he talking about DMX? Yeah. I so I had, before we even got into the track, I had to ask that, because like that has always stuck with me. Like I said, probably it's something I caught maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. And I think that speaks to, when you listen to an album, particularly if it's really, really good, you should be able to get something different every time you listen to it. Maybe it's a snare that you hear one day that you've never heard before. Maybe it's an ad lib or something like that, but it's something you should take from it each time that you listen. So this is something that I caught, like I said, just sitting down listening to it one day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I caught that some years later too. And I was like, yo, who is he talking about during this? And then I started putting stuff together like, yo, was he just talking about, I think he was talking about DMX and Ja Rule, man. So, yeah, Common had his darts out on this one, man. People don't understand. Like, when Common wants to get his darts out, he could be a deadly MC. Don't forget about the Koofy and, the holistic talk and everything else, man. Common could go with the best of them when it comes to stuff like this.
Oh, no doubt.
As Ice Cube found out.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, people have to remember it. At the end of the day, he's an MC. Indeed. And he is not going to play games. He's serious about being an MC. He said, you wasn't a thug before Pac came. 10 years ago, you had a high top trying to be like Kane. Then Snoop released and it became a G thing. Claim sets, your city ain't got games. Oh, man. So, yeah, that was... I just had to dig into that real quick, but
sure, man.
Then we get to the production side.
Yeah,
Jay Dilla again, man.
Again, that piano.
Yes.
Wherever he got that piano sample from, that bass line, like, Dilla does these things with his bass lines. It's just like, dude. Like, if I could travel back into time and sit with him in the studio for a day, like, yo, bro, how did you do that? Like, how did you filter that bass line? And then how did you cut it up on this MPC or this SP to make it sound like that? Like, because that's what I want to learn how to do. How did you do that? That right there? Can I find out how to do that? That was my big thing.
I'm sorry. Yeah. And you know what the thing is? I think he's the only one that knew how to do it. I don't think anybody else, knew how to do it the way that he did it. And it was just like he was basically playing with people, you know what I'm saying, as far as his production goes. But
exactly,
yeah, man, that track again, that's where the album turned for me. And it's no shade on the first 3 tracks because they were phenomenal, but this album takes a serious turn at track 4. Then we move into track 5, The Light. This is probably Common's biggest hit, probably one that made him a household name, if you will. I mean, obviously they shot a video for it. This one again was produced by Jay Dilla. Of course, it contains the great Bobby Caldwell sample. Bobby Caldwell, who I did not know until a few years ago, was white.
I think that caught a lot of people off guard. They're like, hold on, this dude's white?
Yes.
You mean to tell me there was a white boy singing this the whole time?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What You Want to Do for Love is done by Bobby Caldwell, and he's white.
Yes.
And,
man.
So, yeah, The Light, man. So his, comment on this one, man, and I think at the time, I want to say he may have been dating or starting to date Erykah Badu.
It definitely started right around that time.
Yeah, so I think this is kind of like an ode to her, in some way, shape, or form. His lyrics are really, really dope on this one. He kind of killed me with the ticka-ta. I still don't know what the hell that is.
He was just probably trying to get some bars to finish the song off, man.
Right.
And I think he was just like, all right, I'll tell you the rest when I see you.
Right. Because she's clearly sitting there like, okay, what the hell are you saying? But what did you think about The Light, man?
It's just another example of Jay Dilla's brilliance. First of all, this sample of Bobby Caldwell's "Open Your Eyes," when you hear the way that Dilla flipped it, it's just like, wow, dude. Like, again, this is Jedi type mastery you're talking about, like on production. And then Common's flow, him getting into a conversational type piece, man. He's done a few of these throughout his career, and I think he excels when he gets into that conversational type piece. And like I said, right around the time he probably was just starting to talk to Erykah Badu. And it's funny that the track is called "Open Your Eyes" by Bobby Caldwell, because in reading some of the backstory of these sessions in Electric Lady Studios with the Soulquarians, is that somebody told him, I think they were like, "Yo, man, like she's cool. Whatever you do, just don't look in her eyes. Like, just don't do it."
I know that's right.
But a dope track nonetheless, man. Dilla's Mastery Commons, conversational piece here. Really something. It was a huge hit. And it's like on those old school mixes, it's one of those you hear every once in a while, man. So definitely still a big hit for Common, even to this day.
Oh, no doubt, man. A joint that still gets, like you said, major airplay all the time. Then we moved to track 6, "Funky for You" with Jill Scott and Bilal. This one was produced by Jay Dilla and James Poyser. Another banger in my opinion. And it took me a while to really, when I look back at Common's lyrics, the first couple of times I heard it, he was like, "A style for the ooh, wow for the ooh." And I was like, well, what does he say? But then I got it. I figured what the wordplay that he was using. He was doing something different, which is, at that particular time in hip hop, everybody was, I don't want to say everybody, but there were a lot of MCs that kind of sounded the same. And, as far as like their format, as far as how they structured your bars, you being a producer understands that. So I think for him, what he was doing was flipping it. And I think that made it that much better. What did you think about this one?
I did, man. The same exact thing. I think he was just, like I said, flipping it, taking the track and putting it on its head. But I think the funk of this track, hence the title of his track, really spoke out. I mean, Dilla and James Poyser on production, Bilal and Joe Scott doing their thing. And at that point in time, they were two of my favorite vocalists, and are probably still my favorite vocalists even to this point. But they really carried the hook of this song through, all the way through to the end of the song, where you hear the end of the song and you hear Bilal started sort of going off, where he had his own little solo. And it was just like, no lie, when I'm in the car and I hear that part, I sing that part myself.
You got to.
And to me, I think I sound as good as Bilal does. but that's just how it is, man. It's like, you hear that, and then of course that bass line, like, oh my gosh, like, Dilla, why do you do this to me every single time? And Bilal killing it with the vocals, Common sort of setting the track up for the way, the way it went, and his, the flow and everything fit the funk of the track and the way that it rolled. And of course, how can you go wrong with Jill Scott, man? It's a great track, great entry.
Oh, no doubt, man. You can't go wrong with Jill. And like I echo everything that you said, man. I think the Bilal joint at the end kind of reminds me of like somebody in church.
Exactly. It's when people start to get up and start shouting. When a boy going up there, he's singing, testifying while he's singing. And people get up and start shouting, waving their hands in the air. Yes, that's what it was. Took us to church. It's exactly what he did.
Exactly. And then you move into track 7, "The Questions," featuring Mos Def. This also was produced by Jay Dilla and James Poyser. At that particular time, keep in mind that, Mos Def had already been introduced. Well, I mean, he had been out for a while, but the Black Star album had already come out, and Black on Both Sides, Mos Def's debut solo album, came out in 1999. So,
yes, Lord.
And I know, right? And so for Mos Def to get on this joint and go back and forth over a simple beat, but it was a dope ass, again, Jay Dilla's bass line is just crazy.
They are.
What did you think about this one, man? This is one of my favorites.
This is very creative. And by the way, the lady on the track, if I'm not mistaken, is Moni Love.
Oh, wow.
Well. Yeah, if I remember the line notes correctly, Moni Love was the lady who you heard on the track answering the questions, but to hear the type of questions that Common was asking, and to hear the responses, and then the hook, of course, very, very simple, but the beat sort of just made everything sort of go, and what they were saying complemented it so well. And then you bring Mos in, and then Mos asking probably the most pointed questions of all. Why do I need ID just to get ID? If I had ID, I wouldn't need ID. You know, and Most, man, you gotta love it because Most so seems to compliment every track that he's on, and at this time he was in his bag, like you said, off of 2 classic albums, one that was Black Stars and one that was his own, and they had done work before on Respiration, which was on Most Definitely Quality Yard.
Favorites, yes,
and just a great production by Jay Dilla and great questions by both Most and Common, and the flow just like made it roll, man. It was just like, you know, when you hear this joint, man, you can't do nothing but just kind of just sit back and just nod your head.
That's
you know, and just vibe out to it, you know. So great work, man. And this is, we're not even halfway through the album, and it's a hell of a ride already.
Right. He killed me with, he said, why did Dr. J shave his beard and mustache? I was like, yo, I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Doc's my dude. Shout out to Dr. J.
Indeed.
Then we moved to track 8, Time Traveling. This is a reprise of the track 1, which is only a minute 33 seconds, but it's blazing as well. I mean, and it keeps the album still moving. And then we move into track 9, the aforementioned Sixth Sense with featuring Bilal. This one was produced by DJ Premier.
Yeah.
Bruh. Man, let me tell you something. You know a Premier beat when you hear one.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he had the scratching on there, obviously that he took from Mobb Deep.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, to hear Common rhyming over, you know, a Premier beat, man, like this was special to me. I love this track, man. My favorite bar on this one, when he says, if I don't like it, I don't like it. That don't mean that I'm hating.
I mean that I'm hating. Goodness.
I stand by that to this day because there's a whole bunch of shit I don't like.
Yeah, because, you know, people use that term a lot in the late 20th century, turn of the century into the millennium. Everybody's like, oh, why you hating? Why you hating? Everything was hating. Like, nah, I just don't like this shit. I don't like it. Sorry. You know, I don't like it. And you're right.
Yeah.
I mean,
go ahead.
My goodness, this track with that sample from Mobb Deep's Illustrious, you know, from Prodigy's unmistakable voice, that hook by Bilal, adding as much soul as he could to it, and then Common on 3 verses, just literally just killing it over Premier's track. And the one thing that I love about what Primo does is he'll set his track up so he makes sure is that, well, I don't know whether he does it pre-production or post-production, where he makes sure he sets his rappers' bars up almost as good as any producers I've ever seen. And you could hear that in the breakdown at the beginning of the second verse, the way he chops that piano track up and then lets it ride out for the rest of that second verse. And Primo, another Jedi mastery. And like I said, if Jay Dilla's Anakin Skywalker, then Primo's Yoda. Like, seriously.
No question.
But it's dope track. That video, the visuals were great, and it was just like, oh man, so Primo's on here, he did a track on this is dope as hell. And everything that you want, man, a soulful hook, great bars, and a Primo beat.
Oh, no doubt. I agree 1,000%, man. I think this joint, man, I never get tired of hearing it. It was perfectly placed, I think, on the album. And again, you going back to something that you mentioned earlier, you know, it probably came as a surprise to some people, but Premier being on this album, you know, he does. I don't want to say he gets overshadowed, but I mean, when people talk about the production on this album, it generally centers around Jay Dilla and Questlove, and rightfully so. But you know, this one is perfectly placed. I think it's a great track, and it also adds to the you know, the musical sound. And again, who wouldn't want a Primo track?
Yeah, exactly.
Who wouldn't want a Primo track?
Like, sure, a Premier track. I'll take one of those.
I'll take one of those.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh man.
Then we move to track 10, a film called Pimp. Featuring Bilal and MC, the great MC Light. This one was produced by Jay Dilla as well. I'll say this. This is the one track I think it took me a while to warm up to. Because, and I get the premise of it, because they have a skit leading into it where Common, you know, he's talking this deep powerful black righteous shit, and then he goes into pimp mode and starts slapping up this trick who's supposed to be out there getting money for him or whatever like that.
Yeah.
And so the juxtapose between the two. So I get it. I get the background of it. I didn't know. I say probably until maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't know how or why they had this track on here. It wasn't like it was a bad track. I'll say that it's my least favorite track. It's not a bad track at all. I just didn't think that I needed that track. Again, it's a track that over a period of time I've grown to like. I don't hate it. I like it. I'll put it like this. I guess the best way I can describe it. I love the other tracks. I really like this track.
Okay. Got it.
That's what I'll say about that. What's your take on this one?
I love this track immediately.
Okay.
The first time that I heard it, from the minute you heard that bass line come in, that do 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 do, I was like, okay, let's go. And then you got this back and forth conversation between Common and MC Light. And one of the great things that I love about MC Light is her voice. Like, she has, out of all MCs, but for female MCs, she has one of the greatest voices on the track. Like, she speaks with authority. She speaks with confidence. It's a little hood, but also a little sexy as well. You know what I'm saying? So, but you had this conversation between this prostitute and this righteous pimp who's trying to save her, and the back and forth banter between the two of them, to me, conceptually, I think was very, very clever. And then, of course, Bilal brings it all home by singing that hook. Yes. Brings it all home by singing that hook. And then another great production by Jay Dilla. But I thought this was very creative, and I thought it was interesting that they stuck it at this point in the album.
Very much so.
I think, though, for some people, it was just like, okay, here's something a little bit different. And then what they were talking about was actually hilarious. I mean, the back and forth between the two of them, like the beginning of the second verse is, make your next move your best move, choose me. Nigga, how I look. Hoeing for a nigga in a kufi. I mean, if I was on your track, you couldn't produce me.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it was just like, there was just really, really Winty Banner. And I like storytelling tracks. I like when conceptually things kind of work out.
Same here.
And they didn't overdo it. And to me, I thought it was just done, just about as well as it could have been done. But I liked this from the beginning, man. I really did.
And I'm glad you said that, because I'm always interested to get people's perspective, particularly when they differ from mine, as far as like what I like or maybe what I didn't like, or what they like, what they didn't like. Again, it's not something that I dislike. It's definitely one that I think has grown over me over a period of time, because at one point in time, I was skipping this track.
Wow.
I was just like, I don't want to hear that, or I had to be in the mood to hear it. But now, I definitely appreciate it a lot more, and I see why it is where it is. And like you said, it's a very playful banter, and it's very, it's very much so opposite of what we heard, because you have to put it into context. Like you said, this is the 2000s. So at that particular time, everybody was talking about that pimp shit, and they was, everybody had hoes and all this kind of stuff like that. So this was a play on that. And so, for Common to do this and then have the great MC Light on the track with him, I think that was dope. Really, really dope.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then we moved to track 11, Nag Champa, Jay Dilla. This is my favorite track on the album.
Wow. Okay.
Man, and you know what, man, I'm such a fan of Jay Dilla that it's hard for me to, like, if you said, okay, give me your favorite Jay Dilla. If you said give favorite Jay Dilla beat, it's almost like asking me to pick my favorite child. Right. It's Skylar, by the way, but don't tell my sons. But because she's the only girl.
No doubt.
But yeah, man, it's one of my favorite Jay Dilla tracks, man. This beat is just so smooth, man. And then what Common is rhyming about, man, this was a track that I just literally fell in love with from the first time that I heard it, and I couldn't get enough of it. So you know how like you give an album like your first run or whatever like that, and then you may pick a song or two that might be the first song that you start with on your second run if you don't run the album all the way through. This was my first song to go back on my second run.
Wow.
Yeah, incredible joint. What did you think about this one?
Smooth, man. I'll give you another funny story. This track is so smooth, and I love Common's bars on it. I thought this is some of the most thoughtful bars on here as far as the subject matter and the things that he was saying and his wordplay. And when you dig into the lyrics, it's great. But that beat is so smooth, and in combination with Common's lyrics. Back in the day, remember you used to record a voicemail? I actually had this playing in the background of my voicemail. Like, you've reached B. Leave a message at the B. Peace. I had this playing in the background. That's how smooth of a track it was, man. I love, like you say, with Dilla. This is probably, I'd say, in mine and within my top 5 of Dilla beats all time because of how smooth it is. And just the way, like, when you hear those flutes and that bass line and just, it is great. It's a really, really chill track. Like when I used to smoke, like when I used to smoke heavily, let me put it that way. Right. This was one of my go-to tracks when I would have like random playlists. This was one of them I put on my playlist on Winamp or on Windows Media Player, man, because it was just such a chill beat. And those bars that Common were spitting, like the things he was talking about, and it's just like, yeah, man, this is cool. I wouldn't say this is my favorite, but this is probably within my top 3 of tracks on the album. But a really, really smooth track.
No doubt. Yeah, if I smoked, I would smoke to this. Then we go into track 12, Thelonious featuring Slum Village. This one also was produced by Jay Dilla. Now, if you're a fan of hip hop and you know hip hop, this song actually appears on Slum Village's album that would subsequently be released in June, I think, of 2000.
Fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. Volume 2. Man, this joint right here, man. I'm a big fan of Slum Village. And, again, Common at the time was, going back and forth. I know he mentioned, in several interviews how he was going back and forth between New York and Detroit recording this album with Jay Dilla. And he talked about, writing, it was one of the other songs. He didn't anticipate the fellas from Slum Village getting on this particular track, but Jay Dilla did it. And, it came out so dope, man. This joint it's amazing, man. It's amazing. And quiet as kept, Jay Dilla gets on and he's got bars, so, I love this joint, man. What about you?
I love it too, man. And when I heard it on both this joint and on Fantastic Volume 2, those are 2 of my standout tracks on both of these albums because I love SV.
Yes.
I love everything that not just Dilla brought, but then also T3 and Batan.
Yes.
And to hear Common and to hear the 4 of them sort of go on this track and drop bars and over a great Jay Dilla, very understated beat, but still really, really, really smooth as well. And it was great, man, and it just has that nice little vibe, like you hear those vocals in the background that just sort of set you at ease, man. But just sort of the synergy that you have between Common and Slum Village, with Jay Dilla sort of being the architect of it all. But solid track as well, very, very solid track, and I was pleased to hear it not just on this joint, but on Fantastic Volume 2 as well.
Oh, no doubt. That was like the icing on the cake, hearing it on, Slum's album as well. And like I said, with Common's album coming out in March, and then this Slum's album coming out in June, the following June, I thought that was dope to hear it, on those back-to-back albums. Then we move into track 13, Payback is a Grandmother. This one was produced by Jay Dilla as well. Now, if you're a hip hop fan and you're into storytelling, and if you're a Common fan, you remember that Common, he gets into his storytelling bag in on almost all of his albums, but on One Day It'll All Make Sense, he talks about a robbery that happens, and he talks about how he felt about going away and coming back home to to an empty house, literally, and on this one he's talking about getting his grandmother getting robbed. and him going to the barbershop and finding out the guy who actually robbed his grandmother is a dude that actually was cutting his hair in the barbershop. And so his wordplay and just the storytelling, man, I thought was impressive, man. I love when MCs tell stories, because everybody can, well, I don't want to say everybody. Some MCs can just give you bars. Other MCs who are able to, craft a story and, find a concept and support that story, I think is really, really dope. And this is a really good storytelling rhyme, man, that, actually ends in gunfare. But what did you think about this one, man?
Incredible. Yes. Like, borrowing from what you said, what started on One Day It'll All Make Sense heavily with the Stolen Moments Part 1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, and 3,
and that,
yes, sir.
And that had me intrigued listening to it, and then coming back and listening to this. And prior to that, at the end of Thelonious, you hear the voicemail from his grandmother saying, Rashid, grandma, some niggas robbed me on the gambling boat, boo. Call me when you get a chance, And then the track just kind of starts up, and then you hear Common go into this plot. Everything from his grandmother calling him, him bringing her in, her telling him the story of them getting robbed, him going through trying to figure out who robbed her, and figuring out how he could going through the thought process in his head. Like, he lyrically takes you on a journey as far as his thought process. Like, who could it have been? Like, thinking about the guys around the neighborhood and other people. And then finally the climax in the third verse, when he figured out that it was his barber, where he get the bracelet from. He said it was his sister's, and then he said the money clip had Gramps' initials on it. It's bitch sat, then I whipped his ass up, 4 niggas pulled up in a Cadillac truck. Yep. And then after that, you hear the gunfire. And then the dispatch talking and saying that we got suspects at large. It's 2, possibly 3 dead and everything. And it's just like you hear the sirens going on in the background. Really just told a really dope story. And it continued to be able to insert the prowess of Common as a storyteller, and not just any storyteller, but a vivid storyteller. Yes. You can see the images in your head as he's going through each one of these verses as this situation progresses. Just really, really just dope skill. Dope track by Jay Dilla, and great sound effects to sort of accompany everything as well, man. So just A+ for me, absolutely.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. You took me back with the Stolen Moments Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3 on the One Day It'll All Make Sense album, and that, like I said, that goes back to just what we grew up listening to as far as an MC being able to tell stories, because that's how a lot of times MCs will win fans over. Can you tell a story? Can you tell a story that we can follow from point A to point B to point C, have a beginning, a middle, and an ending? And I mean, Common does just that, and I mean he masters it. And I think if you're listening to this podcast and you have not. Obviously, if you haven't heard this album, please go listen to it after you finish listening to this podcast. Yes. But yeah, definitely pay attention to that particular song, because for anyone who wants to MC, you don't have to rhyme about anything, but he gave you gunplay, he gave you, his attitude, he gave you the bravado, he gave you, his mental aspect as far as what he was scheming on. He's trying to plot because he knows that the hood is going to tell him, anybody that pulled off this robbery, because they even mentioned that they got Jordan for his ice. So Jordan was on the boat. Jordan got robbed too. So
oh man,
that another dope track. Then we move to track 14, Ghetto Heaven Part 2, featuring D'Angelo. This one was produced by D'Angelo, Questlove, and James Poyser. Bruh, this. If Nag Champ is my favorite, this is 1A. This joint right here, man, is crazy. It is crazy. It's hard for me to put it into words. First of all, D'Angelo is smooth. He's killing it on the vocals. But Common delivers, I think, some of the bars that, that I always remember. I remember even talking about this on previous podcasts, just some of the bars he delivered on this particular song. But from start to finish. Like I said, if I had to tell you my favorites, this is probably 1A because it's just it's crazy. What did you think about Ghetto Heaven Part 2?
All right, you got to give me a moment for this one, man.
Go ahead.
This is my favorite track on this album. Bar none, 100%. It's not even close. And let me tell you why. The beginning of it, you hear that harp in the beginning. And then you just hear the key come in and then D'Angelo. And when he starts off with that bridge and you hear the rest of that track come together, and then you hear that first verse by Common. This is a beautiful track, man. I have played this track the most out of any track on this album. One, it's Common, one of my favorite MCs. D'Angelo, who had just dropped. And I said this on my podcast. Voodoo may just be my favorite modern album of all time. Meaning of my era. Meaning since I've come of age to now, that is my favorite album. I'm off the heels of listening to Voodoo and all the soulfulness and the funkiness and everything, the spirituality that you got from it. To hear D'Angelo and Common come together on a track like this, a track that was beautifully produced from the keys to the flutes to the bass line to the vocals on the hook to the bridge to Common's lyrics. And you are right, those bars on the song, it was almost like you were reading a poem in some parts of it. Like, honestly, this track does so many things for me. This track brings me up. This track brings me down. I've been happy listening to this song. I've shed tears listening to this song because of some of the memories that it brought back from people that I've lost and some of the times that I've been through. This, bruh, like one of the things I thought was most disrespectful about this album, well, what happened afterwards, is the fact that they made a version about this with the Macy Gray and decide to make a video out of it, and then to also on most of the streaming services you hear now. Do you hear the version with D'Angelo and Common? No. Right. You hear the Sound of Philadelphia remix with Macy Gray. Boy, if that ain't about disrespectful as I don't know what to say.
I don't know who did that.
which let me preface this. If you didn't hear this version, at least in my opinion, and you heard the version with Macy Gray, you probably could mess with it, right? But there's no way in hell,
none,
after I heard this version, that you come giving me this piece of shit with Macy Gray on it and call it Ghetto Heaven.
I love it.
Like, bruh. And so how deep did I get into this track? I actually visualized the video of this in my head. I saw the video of this. Like, exactly, if I was Hype Williams or anybody else who used to direct videos back then, like, how you would have, like, it would have been a beautiful video to shoot alongside this track. Right. Like, that would have been something to shoot. So this is the only Ghetto Heaven that I will acknowledge is this one with D'Angelo. The other one with Macy Gray
doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist to me. It's dead to me.
It's dead to me. You took the words right out of my mouth.
But this track is beautiful, man. And it's just like you listen to it and you listen to D'Angelo and Common make such a beautiful track to start closing this album out. And it's just like, bruh, man, this is and this was actually a trade-off. You know,
yes, it was.
This track was supposed to have been on Voodoo, and Chicken Grease was supposed to have been on Like Water for Chocolate. And as the story goes, D'Angelo heard them jamming the Chicken Grease, or what was going to become Chicken Grease, and he said, "You know what? Y'all can't give Common this shit, man. We need to have this for my album, man." Like, so they decided on a trade-off. I'll take this track, which eventually they called Chicken Grease. This track that I'm working on my album, we'll give this to Common. And that track was Ghetto Heaven. Wow. And I almost think like it worked out perfectly.
It did.
Because Chicken Grease worked perfectly for Voodoo, and this track worked perfectly like for Water for Chocolate.
Oh, no
doubt. I mean, Bro, I could do a podcast on this song by itself, bro. That's how much I love this song, man. My favorite track on the album, bar none, hands down, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, man, I agree 1,000% with everything you said. I think I remember even writing blogs about this one particular song. Verse 2 always gets me. Love, your happiness doesn't depend with a man. Strong woman, why should you depend on a man? No, I'm sorry. Let me go back. Love, your happiness don't begin with a man. Strong woman, why should you depend on a man? I understand you want a man that's resourceful. If he pay your bills, he feel like he bought you. Talking to a friend about what love is. Her man didn't love her because he didn't love his. Hugged her from afar, said what I felt. You never find a man until you find yourself. Time helps mistakes you can learn from. Cause one man fucked up you shouldn't turn from. You want a certain guy, gotta reach a certain point too. At the destination, a king will anoint you.
Yeah.
Bruh.
Yeah.
That's a bar. I mean, man.
Yeah. It is.
If that doesn't speak to you, then you don't know, I can't tell you. I can't tell you much.
Yeah.
You have to live a little bit more in life.
You do.
That I always come back to that verse, man. I mean, that verse right there, that part of that verse of verse 2, just it's incredible. And like you said, it is, you literally could do an entire podcast just breaking down that one song because it's just that dope. I'm glad you gave the historical background on it because, like you said, I'm trying to picture chicken grease on here. Wouldn't have worked.
Nah, wouldn't have.
Maybe a beat, but it wouldn't have worked. But nah, and I mean, Ghetto Heaven would have fit on Voodoo.
Yeah,
but like you said, I'm when you look at the like I use Spotify. When you go to Spotify, I'm pretty sure, like you said, all of these other internet providers. When you go to this album, the Macy Gray version is on there. So you don't even have this version. So normally what I do when I'm listening to this album, and I listen to this album at least once every 2 or 3 weeks. What I'll do is I'll listen to it. And then when I get to this song, I'll skip the Macy Gray version and I'll go to YouTube and I'll listen to it on YouTube and then come back to the album when I go to track 14. Excuse me, track 15.
Yeah.
Speaking of track 15, a song for Asada featuring CeeLo Green. This one was produced by James Poyser. This one right here, man, is really, really deep and educational. Common talks about Asada Shakur. And I'll be honest, prior to hearing this song, I've heard her name before, but I didn't know who she was. So listening to the song made me want to do more research. And I mean, she was, and as far as I know, I think she's still in Cuba, where she's escaped to. But I'm pretty sure he went through even hell trying to get to Cuba to see her, to interview her so that he could do, this song or whatever like that. But he paints a picture of her life and what led her to, fleeing the United States and fleeing the United States government and going to Cuba with political asylum. What did you think about the song for Asada?
It's another deep song, man. These are two back-to-back, Ghetto Heaven and a song for Asada, two of the heaviest songs, I think, on here. And again, it's another instance where you have Common displaying his storytelling skills. As you before, I did not know much about Asada Shakur. I did know that she was Tupac's godmother. I knew that she was a Panther. I wasn't aware of her whole situation, her having escaped to Cuba and everything. But the story that he told and telling her story, it's one thing if you're making up a story and you're sort of using it to, but this was telling someone else's story in a song. And over 3 verses, man, it was heavy to hear about the things that she went through, from the arrest to her being in the hospital to her trial to her escaping from prison and eventually being at where she's at right now, all aided by CeeLo Green's great vocals on the hook, man. I mean, it was another heavy song. And then, of course, the clip you hear at the end of the song with Asada herself talking.
Yes.
It's just a very, very heavy track, man, but very dope, very educational. To me, it has a very somber tone to it because considering, you know, the circumstances around her life, she's still a fugitive from justice, but a freedom fighter, a political prisoner, an inspiration to many people. It's a very heavy track, though, man. Something that has a very somber tone to it, but very dope nonetheless. I mean, a great combination by CeeLo Green and Common.
Yes.
And those keys by James Poyser, Mike. Woo!
He kills it. He kills it.
He does, man. But it's two very heavy tracks back to back, but a song for Asada, very educational, a great story that was told, and a great way to kind of help get this album towards the end because it sort of kind of lets you know, man, it's like, you know, the price of freedom and the price for some of those who are willing to go through to get freedom just sort of, you know, strikes a chord, I would even say, even in today's society, of what other people are willing to do to get to freedom nowadays is other people are not as free as we claim to be in this country. So it's just a reminder, man. It really is. What the song is more so than anything else. Just a reminder of the struggle that we face and the struggle that we continue to face.
No doubt.
You know?
No doubt.
You know?
And I think it's a great piece because it offers a bit of history. And I often say, you know, it's not, you know, we go through things like Black History Month, but, you know, our history of Black people is so much more. And we can't wait for Black History Month to teach us, and we can't wait for the school system to teach us about our history. And it's, you know, yeah, we know about the Malcolms and the Martins and the, you know, Medgar Evers and people like that, but it's people like we have a ton of people like Asada Shakur whose story needs to be told, and I'm glad that, you know, Common took the time and effort to put this on his song, and that way, you know, it inspired cats like us to who did not know to go one or two steps further to, you know, get more education about her.
Absolutely.
Then the album concludes with track 16, Pop's Rap Part 3, All My Children. This one actually features Common's dad, the late Lonnie Pops Lynn. He gets on and does spoken word. This was produced by Kareem Riggins. If you're familiar with Common's albums, I think his dad was on. I know his dad was on. I think he was on Resurrection.
He was.
And he was on Resurrection. He was on One Day It'll All Make Sense, and then he was on this album as well. Like Water for Chocolate. I really enjoy Common's dad, Pops, being on the tracks. He's a funny dude, man, and rest in peace. I think it's really, really dope that Common gave us a chance to understand, you know, a little bit about his dad and a little bit about how his dad thinks. And, you know, just kind of give us a glimpse into the relationship that they had. Like I said, his dad, you know, unfortunately passed away, I think in 2014. So it's been some years. And I remember when he passed, I was kind of sad because even though I didn't know him, you know, just knowing a little bit of what I knew, you know, through his appearances on Common's albums. But he seemed like a really, really cool type of cat you want to hang out with. But I think it's a great closure as far as the spoken word piece and just him just giving game, you know, to the people that are listening. What did you think about Pop's rap?
I love Pops, man. The first thing I think I heard was on Pops was, of course, his rap, the first one on Resurrection. He featured prominently, of course, on One Day to All Make Sense, and he has that one skit at the end of track 4 where he leaves a message for Common saying that he wanted to kick Jesse Jackson's ass, you know. And then his rap at the end of One Day to All Make Sense was a profound because Common at that time was getting ready to become a father for the first time. And, you know, we talked about it a lot on that album and him having a perspective of talking about his relationship with his son and him getting ready to become a father for the first time and his relationship with his son and sort of just giving the knowledge and the game and really showing the relationship that they had. And at the end of this, it's the same thing. Pops gives his rap. You hear him drop a lot of knowledge and say some very profound words at the end of it. and it's a welcome addition at the end of it. And I got to expect it at the end of Common's albums, to hear his dad at the end of those, and to be able to hear a perspective of somebody, especially artists, and then, you know, many people would have their fathers on their albums with them, man. And but the fact that they had a good relationship, and they collaborated, and obviously he wanted his dad to be a part of his projects, just sort of gave a nice little cap at the end of this masterpiece to be able to hear from Pops once again speak on and give us some knowledge and drop some gems and bring us out on a very high note at the end of all this, man. But definitely, I love Pops, man, and may you rest in peace.
No doubt. Couldn't have said it better, man. This album concludes, the running time is 77 minutes, 51 seconds. It was, in case you hadn't figured it out, it's critically acclaimed by most people. I want to say the Source gave it 4.5 mics. You know, most publications, everybody loved this album. I think the album went on to go to sell platinum. And again, Common wasn't a guy who really sold a lot of records per se, but he had a lot of, you know, street cred and everything like that, and was well loved and well respected, you know, in all hip hop circles. So before we get out of here, I gotta ask, you know, you on your podcast, Vaults Classics, you talk about classics all the time. So, and we're going to talk about where people can hear and follow and subscribe to your podcast. But you and your crew, you guys only talk about classics. So
that's right.
My question to you is this a all-time classic? Is it a modern day classic? Or is it just a, you know, incredible album? How would you rank it?
So on my ranking on the Vault Classic Music Reviews, we have, is it certified classic? Is it a borderline classic? Or is it a classic just in its time?
Okay.
And for me, this is a 100%, spoiler alert, certified classic. And it's a certified classic because for me, beyond just the whole thing about whether or not you skip tracks or not, but to me, when it comes to when you look to classify an album as a classic, which I think to me is the point of my podcast, because I think we use and throw that term around way too loosely nowadays. But here it is, we're in 2020. We're still talking about this album. Here it is in 2020. Me now, 20 years removed from high school when I first heard this album, and it still resonates with me. Here it is. I can remember exactly how it was when I felt. And when I listen to this album, it's like a part of me transports right back to the year 2000 and right back to the feelings that I had. Part of what an album does is not just the content. It's not just the production, which is, this is A1, A+. The lyricism, A1, A+. The themes, A1, A+. It's the way that an album makes you feel. It's the way that you remember it. It's the way that it can bring you up sometimes and also bring you down and also take you on a roller coaster ride. It's the way that it will continue to be something that you look back on even as the time progresses. It'll be 2040 and I'll still be playing this album for my kids. You know, it'll be something I hope that one day when I'm a grandpa, I could play for my grandbabies, because it's that important to me. And when it comes to Common, to me, and you know, I get into this a lot when we talk about discographies and catalogs. To me, this is probably number 2 on my personal list, right behind B. Okay. But it's not that far behind, though. I mean, it's literally, if B was a 10, this is probably a 9.8, 9.9 in terms of classic material. This is going to stick with me for a very long time. And it's time. I mean, here we are. We talk about things, music being timeless. This is something that it's genre bending. It doesn't stick to to what you would expect hip hop to be and a rap album to be. This is something that incorporates soul and funk and gospel. And I mean, it's a certified classic to me, man, because to me, this is something that for years on I'll be listening to and will still rate as one of my favorites. I mean, in this year alone, this is in my top 3 of albums that came out in this year. Like, it's hip hop albums. It's for me, it's Supreme Clientele, this, and Train of Thought by Reflection Eternal. And to me, it's right up there, and it's a certified classic to me, bro, because I'm going to be listening to this for years to come. And when I have kids and when I have grandkids, I'll be having them listen to this, man. This is one of my favorites. It really is.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think for a while, and anybody knows me, I don't throw around the word classic a lot because it is, like you said, it's thrown around way too loosely. In fact, I did a podcast called "What is a Classic?" And where I talk about how we've gotten to this point, because everything can't be a classic. Every album can't be a 5 mic album, because it's not. I mean, if that were the case, then you have no, because everything that comes out isn't great, and it's okay to say something is okay. It's okay to say something is decent. It's okay to say something is whack or trash. I think when I look at this album, even when I move my personal biases aside, I have to say that this is a classic album. This album, and I think it's been out long enough, because I don't think that you can have an album come out and be out for 2 weeks and say it's an all-time classic. No, because it has to stand the test of time.
It does.
And we probably shouldn't start looking at albums to examine if they're all-time classics if they haven't been out, I don't know, 15, 20 years, because music would have changed so much in that period of time. So given the fact that this has been 20 years, I am here to say that I think this is a classic album. I think it's an all-time classic. I think it is. And again, I'm moving my personal biases aside because of how I feel about Common and Jay Dilla. This is a great body of work. And I think you can really put it up there with any of them when you put it into context. And I think it's one of the last, great, because I think if you look at hip hop's history, the classic albums, I think, start slowing down around this time because hip hop made such a turn that you don't have the production, you don't have the lyricism, you don't have the impact on its community the way that this album does. So yeah, my opinion, this is a classic. If I'm giving it mics, I'm giving it 5 mics. If you say you're giving it 4.5, hey, you get an argument for me. If you say you're giving it 4 mics, I probably could argue with you. I won't. Yeah. But yeah, it's a phenomenal album. I will ask anyone who's listened to us talk about it. You can tell as we wax poetic about it. I mean, it's definitely a classic album. I would advise you to listen to this album once you finish this podcast. Before we get out of here, man, tell folks where they can catch you at, where they can catch your podcast at, and all of that good stuff. So, because we want people, obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, my boy B Cox brings it, and trust me, I'm telling you, I'm not just saying it because he's on here. He has a very, very dope podcast, and you don't necessarily have to be hip hop head, but for those who are hip hop heads, you'll appreciate it even more. And then what it does is he and the crew, you guys really break it down in layman's terms to what people who may not have been up on an album, what they need to hear and what they need to listen to in that particular album that you're reviewing. So I think that's always key. So tell folks where they can catch you at.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I thank you, man, for listening and listening to the show, man. And I appreciate all the feedback as well. So the Vault Classic Music Reviews, you can catch it anywhere that you can pretty much find a podcast at. Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. I have a link tree on most of my social media sites. We'll start with the Vault. Of course, most of the places you can catch me is on Twitter. That's at Vault Classic. That's at Vault Classic. Personally, I'll give you that information later, but you can also get the Vault Podcast on Instagram at Vault CMR Podcast. That's at Vault CMR Podcast. And on Facebook and YouTube, you can search both of us there, the Vault Classic Music Reviews, and you'll find us on YouTube and also on Facebook. So please check us out. Personally, you can find me on Instagram on @itsLesson. That's @ITSLesson. Lesson is my producer and my rap name. You can also find me the same place on Instagram @itsLesson. And I look forward to hearing from everybody. And please check out my podcast. I appreciate it. It's for music lovers. It's for hip hop lovers. As Kyle has said, of course, we do really break down into albums. We started out doing hip hop albums, but starting this year, we're going to be doing also R&B and also reggae albums as well.
That's dope.
So please be on the lookout for that, man. And we do classic albums, and we do albums on their 20, 25th, and 30th anniversary dates. So we only delve into the classics because we really do believe you got to let an album breathe before you deem it a classic truly. So thank y'all, man. Make sure y'all come check it out, man. I look forward to seeing all the new listeners and interaction on social media. I love it, and I do it all for y'all.
No doubt, no doubt. And make sure you hit him up on social media if you like what you hear, because he'll definitely vibe with you on social media as well. You guys have been listening long enough. You know where to find me on this podcast. Can be found on all platforms where podcasts are free. Hit me up on social media @12Kyle IG, the same as well as the podcast 12 Kyle Podcast. So that's gonna do it for us. This one is in the books. Like water for chocolate, 20 years later. So for my boy B Cox, I'm your boy 12 Kyle. We'll catch you guys on the next go round. 5,000.
Peace.
When you manage procurement for multiple facilities, every order matters. But when it's for a hospital system, they matter even more. Grainger gets it and knows there's no time for managing multiple suppliers and no room for shipping delays. That's why Grainger offers millions of products in fast, dependable delivery, so you can keep your facility stocked, safe, and running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you work in university maintenance, Grainger considers you an MVP because your playbook ensures your arena is always ready for tip-off. And Grainger is your trusted partner, offering the products you need all in one place, from HVAC and plumbing supplies to lighting and more. And all delivered with plenty of time left on the clock, so your team always gets the win. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, visit Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.